Why are communities so popular? And instead of so popular, you might think about this as why are communities becoming so necessary? And I'm going to answer that question by sharing just a bit of perspective from being in the research world for the past 15 years. 15 years might not sound like a lot of time to some of the veterans that I've heard speaking today, but it is enough time to see that there are some real trends that have created this movement toward communities. The first of those trends that we're seeing is just this need for a constant supply of fresh insights. Because of the sophisticated marketing and product development efforts that are out there today, everybody's looking for innovation, and everybody wants to be customer-centric in their innovation, right? The second major movement that we're seeing is just the need to do things quickly, very quickly. Everybody's trying to make a decision quickly, and that reduces the amount of time that we have for traditional research today. And the third main factor is simply budgetary constraints. Everybody wants to get consumer insights into the mix, and they're trying to do it in the most cost-effective manner possible. So taking that into consideration, we think consumer research communities provide a really different environment to engage with consumers to help address some of these unmet needs of the ever-changing marketplace. And there are three main ways in which they do that. And that's what this slide demonstrates. The first main way is simply just the informal nature of a research community. If you think about it and compare that against traditional research, there's always some type of barrier between the company and, and the client, right? As I'm having trouble with technology here. With focus groups, you've always got that glass mirror between you and the customer. You send out a survey. Consumers never know who's really sponsoring the survey or who they're giving feedback to. With a community, you don't have that. Most communities are branded, and people know who they're giving feedback to. The second main thing is two-way communication that a community provides. By two-way communication, again, if you compare that to traditional research very much has a we ask the questions, you answer type of mentality, right? With communities, we encourage the participants to communicate back with the client company. And in fact, many times we encourage our clients to tell the consumers that are participating in the community what you're doing with the information. Give them feedback on the decisions that you've made with the information that they're giving you within the community. The other type of two-way communication that happens is communication between the participants in the community. We encourage them to have dialogue with one another. And in fact, that's one of the places where you will find some of the biggest insights come in. Because the people that are participating in the community typically have a real passion around the topic that they are engaged in. And they'll start dialogue with one another and bring up topics that you never really even thought about. And again, that's a great springboard for innovation. The third area is the longitudinal perspective of a community. Again, comparing it to traditional research, very point in time traditional research is. We have a focus group for 2 hours. We send out a survey that takes somebody 20 minutes to complete. We see them for those 20 minutes, we say goodbye, and we never hear from them again. With a community, you're engaging with consumers for an extended period of time, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And in essence, you're asking those people to become sort of your virtual consumer research team. You're bringing them in and you're asking them questions to help you make decisions. So for all of these different reasons, we really believe that consumer research communities have the ability to change the dynamics of the relationship between companies and their customers. Now, the sort of ironic thing about all of this is that communities are not at all new. I mean, if you think about it, communities have been around since the infancy of the internet. I'm sure you can think of a bazillion different communities. You've probably participated in some before. iVillage is a great example. You can also think about situations with gamers are a perfect case in point example. Gamers go online all the time, connect with other gamers to find out how to get to that next level of the game that they're so passionate about. So online forums have been around forever. If you fast forward to about 5 years ago, maybe 5 to 7 years ago, that's when, I am having a real trouble here with this thing. That is when private online communities came into play, right? And private online communities, you can think about those as more focused, typically sponsored by a particular company focused on a product or a product category, a brand, and very much with the purpose of building brand advocates. Hallmark and General Motors are both great examples of companies who were engaged with private online communities very early on, use them to help build brand advocates while also learning from consumers. What we have done as researchers is created what we call consumer research communities. And you can think about research communities in a way of, they bring sort of the benefits of and the dynamics of an online community together with all of the approach and rigor and technique of research. And we truly believe that they are changing the way companies do research. Okay. Some of the key benefits of research communities. We've got a bunch of them listed up here. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but 3 of them that I'd like to highlight are, one, just the ability to cross-pollinate the community with traditional research. We believe that communities are most powerful when they're used as a part of the larger consumer research puzzle, okay? And when I say that, what I mean is you can use a traditional research and take insights from that and take them out to the community and get more clarity or depth on that traditional research by putting it out to the community. Likewise, you can use the community to harvest insights and use those insights to fuel your traditional research. So they work very well back and forth, and we really believe that this back and forth nature is one of the biggest sort of evolutionary steps in the idea of research communities. Another big benefit of research community is the idea of just the ability to replace time-consuming research. Oftentimes companies have questions that they need an answer to now, right? You have a question, you need to get an answer right away. Traditional research doesn't always give you the capability to do that. With a community, you can field a question in the context of a larger study, or you can put just that question out there. And oftentimes we've seen with our clients that that's helped them get an answer to something that they wouldn't have been able to spend the time or money to get an answer on before. They would have used gut instinct, they might have made a decision, but they wouldn't have had consumer input on that decision. The third main benefit we feel is just this idea to do more with less. Time and time again, our clients are telling us that they can get the same type of research answers with the community at a fraction of the cost. Okay. So as you can imagine, though, communities have this ability to generate massive amounts of information. And that's scary for some people. They think about that, it's daunting. It's a lot of information. So we believe that unless you put a systematic system in place for sharing and communicating out the results of the community, the results and the value of a community can really be diminished if you don't have that in place. So as research partners, what we do is we really try to understand our clients' business, their objectives, and figure out, what the best purpose of the community is, so that when we get this massive amount of information, we can help them distill it down to the most important nuggets, as well as bubble it up to insights that can create action and change within your organization. Okay. So it's probably worth mentioning at this point that bringing community into your environment is a lot different than starting a traditional research event, right? It's different. It's a new way of learning from consumers. It's a new way of working with consumers. And because of that, you've got to allow for the appropriate sort of introduction of the community into your culture for it to be accepted appropriately. Tom is going to talk in a few minutes about how Best Buy adopted communities into their culture. But to put it in full context, a community will be more scrutinized than traditional research because it is new. You'll have lots of questions about, what kind of return on investment am I going to get in this? Is it really worth it? And those types of questions will be there. The other thing to mention here is, yes, we keep talking about this idea of systematically learning and sharing out what you are getting from the community. But the other thing that we believe is really important is to identify the overarching themes of insights that you're learning from the community. What this helps with is to make sure that with all of this massive amount of information that you're getting, what you're learning in month 1 isn't lost by the time you get to month 6. So keeping track of these overarching themes helps with that. It also helps you in sort of developing a roadmap of where the community has been and planning out what you can use it for in the future, as well as what results have you gotten from the community and what actions have taken place as a result of the community. And thinking about that as well, this roadmap can sort of serve two purposes. One is it shows you what you've learned from the community. The other is it helps you answer the questions of what decisions did we make with the results of the community? What bad decisions did we avoid with the results of the community? So you're not just making a roadmap of your shared learnings, you're also able to take it and sort of assess the return on investment with that community. Okay, before I wrap up my portion of the presentation, we just want to share with you a couple of ways to make sure that you're sort of maximizing the insight value of a community. And these couple of things are, first off, keep consumers continually engaged. Our philosophy is that there should always be a pipeline of ideas in place that you can, ideas to access to talk to your community about. Our typical engagement with a community is at least once a week. We want to put a question out or have an activity for the community at least once a week. We feel that that establishes a real regular cadence for the participants to get used to. They're used to knowing that a new topic is going to be out there once a week. Sometimes it's more than once a week, but once a week seems to be a good rule of thumb, and that keeps people engaged, and it makes the organization also feel like you're using the community. Take advantage of this idea of the longitudinal perspective. You can think about a community as sort of like a focus group in slow motion, if you will. In a focus group, oftentimes, you start with very general questions, and over time, within that 2-hour focus group, you get to more specific and more depth of questions. Take advantage of the longitudinal perspective of the community and start out general, and over the course of time with the community, you can ask more detailed questions around the same topic. Analyze consumer chatter. Within all of our research communities, we have a place called the coffee house. It might be called something different for different clients, but the idea is it's a place for consumers, participants to go within the community and talk amongst themselves. And this is the very informal nature of the community, and this, again, is where a lot of times things come up that you would never even thought about asking your customers, but they're talking about it amongst themselves. Change things up, try new approaches. Oftentimes, the standard approach with the community is to dialogue. We put out a question, we get qualitative responses, but we found that participants love a variety of things to do. So quant surveys can be done through the use of the community. Sometimes we'll do mystery shops and have them go actually out into the field and bring information back to us. There's all different types of activities you can do. We find the more variety, the more engaged they are. And then finally, be flexible. These communities, again, extended period of time, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. Over that period of time, it's important to, not be so limited in scope. The community that Tom's going to come up and talk about initially was recruited to be around computers and computer services. Over the course of time, we've asked the community about home theater. We've asked them about appliances, all different types of product categories that Best Buy services, and it keeps them engaged and it keeps them, interested in participating.